Cheryl Husbands, Minister of Training and Tertiary Education, onto the stage. The Minister of Mauritius, in alphabetical order, Tertiary Education, Science and Research, the Honourable Kaviraj Sukon. From South Africa, the Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, the Honourable Mimi Gondwe. And finally, from Sierra Leone, the Deputy Minister of Technical and Higher Education, the Honourable Sergio Aziz Kamara. Excellent. So please, if you wouldn't mind being quiet, I'd like us to start. All the ministers have a microphone. We have a roving microphone. If there are questions, after this session, we will move immediately into the valedictory and closing. And then after the valedictory and closing, which I promise you will not be long, we'll move immediately into the celebration of 3 very hard days' work to which you have all contributed. This panel is being chaired by Minister Husbands. Over to you, Minister.
Hello. Excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Scott, and good afternoon to colleagues. Let me again express my thanks and the thanks of our ministers indeed for such a wonderful, wonderful conference that has been very helpful to us. And we appreciate the opportunity to be sharing in this ministerial panel to discuss things that are of critical importance to policymakers like ourselves. We have on the panel from South Africa, the Honourable Gondwe. I trust I pronounced that correctly. A very powerful woman and a strong leader in her country. And so we have enjoyed her contributions over the days. And then we also have the Honourable Sukon from Mauritius, who launched his registry of courses yesterday, and Mauritius has been doing extremely well, and so we welcome him to the panel. And then we heard from Sierra Leone, the Honourable Kamara, who shared with us the excellent work that is taking place in transitioning Sierra Leone to TVET training and the micro-credentialing, etc. So welcome to our panel. We're going to be as efficient as we can in our time, and what we want to be able to do is to discuss the issue of employability, prior learning and credentialing for enhanced youth engagement. Now, across the world, the issue of employability is a major issue for many countries, and certainly for those of us who are in the developing world. Many of us experience an asymmetry where what we train our children for, there are no jobs in those areas, or enterprises require different skills and different abilities. And this has led to a result where unemployment becomes a major problem, frustrates enterprises, and it is a frustration also for policymakers. Why? Because unemployed youth present a major challenge, because once their lives are not being successful, once they're not seeing the possibility of achieving their goals, they not only get restless, they also can become a major source of disruption within a community. And so what I want to start off with is looking at the status of employability and the challenges that our countries are facing with regard to the fact that we may have a number of unemployed youth, and also the fact that the Future of Jobs report has told us that there's going to be even more disruption in terms of losing a number of traditional jobs and the emergence of new jobs that we have yet to prepare our young people for. So I will start here to my immediate left with Sierra Leone to share with us what is the status among unemployed youth and what are the challenges it presents to policymakers and countries in grappling with that issue?
Thank you, Honorable Husbands. Delegates, I think we're nearing the end, but we're having a very significant session. Employability and skills, the case of Sierra Leone. I think I just use this opportunity to tell the Sierra Leonean story. Sierra Leone has about 8 million population. About 70% of that is unemployed. It's young people. Over 60% unemployed, not in education, employment, or training. So as a government, recognizing that need, we had to open up opportunities on the demand side, trying to create skills that are 21st century ready, skills that are industry relevant. So in the first place, we decided to have 2 ministries of education, one with emphasis on school education, but one with an emphasis on technical vocational education and training and higher education. We firstly had to address the policy deficit by having a technical vocational education policy in place. We had to review our University Act, ensuring that we transform polytechnics into technical university so that they can have a shift from academic courses but are directed at training people in relevant skills. But also, for us to respond to the demand, we had to do a labor market survey to have an understanding of the skills that will be most relevant for industries and the private sector. We had the benefit of a World Bank funding, about $20 million, to support skills development as a skills development project. So this has been ongoing, but the issue around sustainability and ensuring that the technical universities maintain their focus from the traditional courses to skills development. We further had to develop the dual apprenticeship policy so that young people in particular have an opportunity to understand the theory, but the skills-based, but emphasis on employability skills, on entrepreneurship, so that they don't only learn the skills, but they're able to utilize those skills to not only create employment for themselves, but to also become employers. We also had to place emphasis on our government technical institutes that we're trying to transform into community colleges to open up access at rural level to the young people, also create different pathways. So if they can't progress to universities, they can move into these technical colleges, acquire the necessary skill sets, acquire jobs within their district based on particular specializations. Of the 5 regions, we're having a policy to have centers of excellence. So if you have agriculture, you have a center of excellence for agriculture, for ICT, for building and construction, for renewable energy. So there's a sense of specializations and young people can find themselves into these jobs. Essentially, resourcing TVET has been one of the key areas. You also have to train the instructors to understand, to be at the level. We know with the children now in 21st century, they're very much equipped and adept with technological skills, with ICT capabilities, with artificial intelligence, to create a classroom environment where they can enhance the skills, not just for the Sierra Leonean context, but for global competitiveness. We also have to bear in mind continental policies, the African Union TVET policy, the National Qualifications Framework, to make them understand that with TVET, you can also do a master's in TVET from diploma based on the National Qualifications Framework. Earlier in the earlier panel, I mentioned about the micro-credentials. The youth of today, we're trying to reskill them, we're trying to repurpose them, we're trying to redirect them, so that it's not just about flagging the degree certificate that you have or the diploma certificate, but it's about being able to acquire the necessary competencies For that case, we have emphasis on competency-based training so that they can acquire this competency-based training. And we're trying to also engender a South-South cooperation. We've been to South Korea. We're trying to have an understanding of the German template. We've been at the African Skills Week, trying to have a system that the ecosystem of skills, but also I think what's key into this is to carry industry on board, to have an interest of the private sector. Example, the Sierra Leone Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to bring them on board so that the skills that are needed to drive industrialization, relevant skills. But what's key in all of this is to get our young people to change the perception, but not even only the young people, the parents also, to change their perception. But for perception to change, the quality has to be top-notch.
You've answered 1, 2, 3 of my questions now. That was excellent.
Thank you. So I think I'll stop there for now.
But we really appreciate
the
fact that a lot has been done and a lot of thoughtful work has been done in Sierra Leone to be able to re-engage your youth and to put them in touch with the opportunities to build skills and competencies. And that certainly is an example that many of us, our countries, can follow. I just want to shift to Mauritius to share with us the issue of the challenges that you have in terms of that asymmetry between what we are training our young people in and what has it meant as a challenge for policymakers in trying to deal with the social problems that emerge from out of that asymmetry.
Thank you. As all countries, we have unemployment. There is no way out. Whether we are a small state or a big country, unemployment remains an issue. The thing is that the young people, whom we call the digital natives, we don't trust their digital abilities. We like to see their TikToks that they make so rapidly, yet we are afraid to use the digital technologies in classroom to teach them. So somewhere, we, through the policies, we have to come forward and ensure that we are using digital technology, the power of technology, to take education to them. So that's important. That's why we have a number of schemes in Mauritius. One of them is the national schemes for skills development run by the Human Resource Development Council, which gives students the opportunity to have placement in industry. They are given a stipend. They are also given some, there's some teaching that goes on. So this is one of the schemes that is working very well in Mauritius. You can find the details of the National Skills Development Program on the website of the Human Resource Development Council. We are also ensuring that we get more and more employers involved in the development of our curriculum. We have set up a national committee with the private sector to look at the development of the national curriculum. We are also we are designing a common platform with the private sector to allow the students of the school, the universities, to have placement with the employers. We are also coming up with micro-credentials. So, as has been pointed out, there's no way out. If you want to ensure that our youth have the skills necessary to take up the jobs, we should go the micro-credential way. So the micro-credentials may be run by the employers, which I always prefer, so as to be able to give the opportunity to our students to acquire the skills. Because, as I say, There's no university in the world who can actually possess the tools, the equipment that the employers have. That's why placement of students, right, in the industry is vital. But now through micro-credentials, we are acknowledging that, formalizing it, ensuring that this is a commitment from both the university, the student, and the employer in ensuring that skills are being acquired by the student. So we are coming with the regulations as well.
Thank you so very much. And we now go to South Africa. If you could share from a policymaker's point of view what the challenge of high unemployment means to us, and therefore what are some of the things that you have addressed as both Mauritius and Sierra Leone have shared what they have been doing. So what does it mean to a policymaker to be faced with the challenge? What's the challenge it presents, and what have you done?
Thank you very much, Minister Husbands, for that question, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Mimi Gondwe, the Deputy Minister for Higher Education and Training from the Republic of South Africa. So yesterday in the discussion around small states, it was interesting to know that South Africa is not a small state, but we face very similar challenges with our small states, and the high level of unemployment is one of those. We have a population of 63 to 64 million people. It's a huge population, but the challenge that we're having is that our economy is not as growing as fast as we would like it to grow. It's estimated that every year 600,000 people enter our workforce and they can't find employment. When we look at young people, the level of unemployment is currently sitting at 46%. So we are under a lot of pressure as a country to be responsive to the issue of unemployment. And that's why, as the Government of National Unity, one of our priorities is around job creation and inclusive growth, and also combating the high cost of living, and invariably the high levels of unemployment. But from a higher education perspective, I think what we've done is, with our TVETs, much like Sierra Leone, we have centers of specialization. And these centers of specialization are established to address the skills shortages around, artisanal programs in specific critical areas such as your welding and your bricklaying. And more importantly, they are industries that are involved in these centers of specialization. I recall visiting one of the TVET colleges and visiting one of the centers of specialization and finding that, the students there were working on a car that had been donated by Ford, for example. So, they foster, partnerships with industries. And in that way, you find that our students are not only getting theoretical knowledge, but also practical knowledge. But I think one thing that we've also done is partnerships. I'm passionate about partnerships with the private sector. And in the year and a half that I've been a deputy minister, I've gone out to engage the private sector to say, let's partner so that you can then influence what is being taught at our TVETs, for example. And you can even influence the curriculum. And I'm happy to report that I've been able to at least secure some MOUs in that regard with some big corporations in South Africa, and that helps in terms of bridging the gap between the world of work and the world of study. And then we have what you call SETAs in South Africa. We have 21 of them connected to various sectors of the economy. So we have a banking SETA, an agri-SETA, which is connected to agriculture, and those are able to offer internships and learnerships to students or young people, especially those that didn't opt to go to university or couldn't get into a TVET or a university. They have the option to then take up a learnership with a SETA. But one thing we also have is a program around entrepreneurship development. as a department, and that is around inculcating that entrepreneurial spirit in young people, because the reality is that, like I said, the economy is not as growing as fast as we would like it to go, so it's unlikely to absorb, every unemployed person. And so we need to see more young people being able to set up their own businesses, and they're able to then employ themselves and others. And I think employability doesn't only speak to working for someone, but also being able to, to employ yourself and other people as well. So entrepreneurship is something also that I would like us to really ramp up as a country, especially amongst, I have a passion for young women. When I visit TVETs, etc., I'm always amazed that, the lecturers at your TVETs will tell you that your female and male students, for example, weld differently. So when the young female student welds, the lecturer will tell you she pays attention to detail and she takes pride in her work. And even around coding and your robotics, I heard a gentleman from Lenovo telling me that the way female students code is different from the way male students code. So they're all elegant about it, and they take their time and the like. So I believe that we should have we should try and capacitate a lot more young women to be able to, emerge from our sector and be able to start their own business. And because women constitute the majority of the population, and they continue to bear the brunt of poverty, unemployment, gender-based violence, discrimination, you name it. And so I would like to see a lot more women being capacitated in that sense.
Excellent responses from our panel. One of the things that has jumped out for me in all of your responses is the importance of the role of the private sector in supporting what we're doing in a very active way. And I believe that we have to target them and bring them along on this journey with us as we're walking through the micro-credentialing, the prior learning, and the TVET, all of that. I think we need to be able to bring them along. In Barbados, what we have done, we have a social partnership which has at the table labor, government, enterprises. We've just added the church and a number of other NGOs to be a part of the national planning. And one of the things I'm very happy to report is that as we laid out the plan for the fact that we need to do a major intervention among our youth, the private sector stepped up to the plate and said, how can we help? And we asked them to sit and work through what are the things you think that you can do? And so they are primed and ready now to engage.
They are, definitely.
And we have to make sure that we bring them along and make sure that they have this information that we ourselves are engaging in. Now, I just have a quick one-sentence question to put in context for our audience. Approximately how much of your budget do you spend on education? Where is it in that? Where is that in terms of the importance of the investment in education? Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much. For Sierra Leone, we have been very intentional in our budgetary allocation to education as a package. We're at 22% budgetary allocation to education. But I have to say, because of the perception, more attention and more allocation has to be paid to the TVET sector in terms of, so we have to repurpose budgeting. Because TVET, by the way, I think it's even far more expensive in giving it a startup. I think that's where we are. And if we're to give it that startup, there has to be much more attention. And TVET is not an investment that has to be solely dependent on donor for sustainability. I mean, I say this from experience. When we've had a funding from the World Bank on the second phase, the first phase of Skills Development Fund, when that ran out, we're still in the process of trying to attract another phase of funding for sustainability purposes. So I think to move it further, all of us here, if we're trying to create new generation jobs in the 21st century, if we're trying to reduce unemployability for our young people, I think we have to be advocates for TVET and skills. We have to pay attention, and we have to be intentional and more purposeful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we move to Mauritius to share with us your government's commitment in terms of investment in education.
Well, if I tell you pre-primary, primary, secondary, and undergraduate is free. We have a number of schemes. Transport is free for students. We also have certain schemes, the social security schemes for students coming from vulnerable families who benefit from free books. We have a number of schemes that allow the students not to pay for the examinations, right? So at the primary level, every student gets free books, right? So for 1.2 million people, as you can see, the population itself is declining as well. We are spending between 12% to 15%.
Thank you so very much. And South Africa.
Thank you. So we, as the Department of Higher Education and Training, we have oversight over 100 entities. We have 26 public universities, 50 TVET colleges, 21 CETAs. We've got NSFAS, which is a student financial aid scheme. We've got the NSA, National Skills Authority, NSF, quality assurance bodies. So it's really a huge sector. And our total budget allocation, and I'm talking now about our budget vote, was for 157 billion. So that goes to show that our country is serious about education. I think education, and when I talk about education, I'm talking about basic and higher education. I think education, defense, they take a big chunk of the budget. And when you look at our 157 billion budget, the majority of that goes towards NSFAS, which is the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, which is to help those students that cannot ordinarily afford higher education to get access to higher education. So we're serious about higher education, and I think we place a very high premium on it as a government, especially the education of women, you know? That adage that says you educate a girl child, you educate a nation. And so and I must say that I believe that the majority of beneficiaries of NSFAS are female. So that is another indicator that we're passionate about educating our women folk in our country.
Thank you very much. In relation to Barbados, we spend close to 400 million US annually, because we do offer from nursery, pre-primary, all the way through to tertiary education. And we also provide the laptops that the children use and a range of services that we have been introducing. But one of the things that has been really important is to do early assessment of children to discover those who will have special needs. And so the government has been spending a great deal of money on it in order to ensure that no child is left behind. And I want to say this to us as a conference. These resources are precious and scarce. When we assign resources to education, it means that we've said to another part of our economy, another part of our society, we cannot give you more because we are focusing on education as the catalyst for change. What this means is that every effort must be made by us to convert those dollars into meaningful results. It means being committed. It means being focused. It means making the sacrifice. It means saying to others who are not as committed as you are, to say to them, no, this is not acceptable. We need you to give your best effort to this. Because if these dollars fail to produce the results, the resulting unrest is something that we will not want to live with. And there's a maxim that I always lived with as a person who enjoys human development. People have only one life. We do not have the right to waste their time by not being relevant, by not being excellent, by not being efficient, by not caring, by not planning well, by not executing well, because we cannot give them back that time. And their lives are affected by what we do. And therefore, I just want to urge all of us that we have a major role to play and not to be weary in well-doing. Now, I have one final question that I want you to give some deep thought to, and I'd appreciate even feedback from the audience as well. In Barbados, one of the challenges we have are we have a number of underserved students who've left the system without certification. The experience that we have given them, where we did not give them a stimulating, relevant education, left some people with an unpleasant taste in their mouth when it comes to learning. We have set ourselves a target that we have to re-engage that group of underserved. The question is, how are we going to overcome their lack of confidence in re-engaging education, the natural distaste and unwillingness to go back into a learning situation so that they can finish their education using these excellent resources that we are putting before them, whether it's the micro-credentialing, the TVET, the prior learning. How are we going to effectively reach and engage them so that they will want to continue the journey of education? Because if we don't have that as a part of the plan, all of our investment is in vain. All of this hard work in this room is in vain. How is your country approaching that?
Thank you very much. In the case of Sierra Leone, having an understanding of unemployment and the need for our young people to get jobs. And we know a lot of them are into casual skills, say construction, plumbing, electrical. What we have done is to conduct a reskilling training so that they are satisfied by the relevant bodies like the National Council for Technical Vocational and Education, so that they are tested and certified. Another approach has also been taking advantage of recognition of prior learning, because they may have dropped out in a way because of lack of opportunities, which is why we gave investing in education 22% budgetary allocation to onboard them. And I think this is where we also value that we are now in the process of benefiting from the support of COL on the micro-credentials training, so that these training are short-term training, because many of these are adults who already have responsibilities, who care for their families. So it's important that we give them this opportunity so that they don't find it burdensome, not necessarily in a classroom environment. They don't struggle for the resources that are required for them to improve on their skills, for them to see themselves as entrepreneurs, where they can properly assign jobs, take up jobs, and benefit from it fully without being underpaid. So when we talk of employment, I think we have to be mindful that we don't get people underemployed, that they do a job and they don't get the right remuneration for it. Thank you.
I think the fundamental question is whether the student are failing or we are failing the student.
Oh, we failed the student, no doubt about that.
That's the fundamental question. Because what we are doing, we are all different, but we are assuming that in the classroom, everybody will learn in the same way, because they are taught in the same way. That's why I think we are betting on digitalization, where we can have people having their own digital tutor to teach them. But that's for the future, because we would like in future every child to have his or her own avatar digital tutor to teach them, to be able to allow them to get the content that they need, because we feel that we are all different and we need different content. My weaknesses cannot be the same as the weaknesses of everybody. My strength cannot be the same as everybody. So that's why we need personalized learning, which I believe that this should be the answer towards ensuring everybody acquires the right skills. But now, those who have not had the chance to have this, and we have a number of them, we are preparing the strategic plan for higher education in Mauritius. We have created pathways. The pathways allow them to join through various routes, vocational, technical route, and to allow them, to tell them, you know, even through that route, you will be able to achieve, to go to the university and achieve a degree from the university if you want. So this is how we are telling them, you can, if you don't want to join the academic route, you can still join the vocational technical route and still have the pathway to reach to the level you require. Government is also giving a lot of incentives to the youth so that they can become entrepreneurs, start their own business. We have the SME Mauritius, we have bodies like SME Mauritius, we have bodies like the Development Bank, helping the young people to start their enterprises. And what we are encouraging is that we move more and more, we take education more and more to those who need it in the way they can accept it. Thank you.
So, in addition to universities and TVET colleges, in South Africa we have what you call community colleges. And what we're trying to do now is to rebrand our community colleges to make them as attractive as your TVETs and your universities. And so a community college would appeal to, I always say, to that young girl who had to drop out of school because she fell pregnant, but she wants to go back and rewrite in order to get her matric, you know, to complete her basic education. They would also appeal to that mature woman in a rural setting who is thinking, is there a chance for me to go back to school and do something? And maybe even learn how to read and write. So they appeal, you know, to that particular niche. So we have one in every province. We have 9 provinces in our country, but they tend to be a lot more in the sense that then they have they have satellites and they have community learning centers. So, and I'm really excited about us rebranding them, making them attractive so that we see a lot more people come in that have felt excluded by, you know, the formal education sector. But we also have a national policy on the recognition of prior learning, and it's focused on sectors such as construction, community education, and so that is another option. I mean, so that gentleman who has a lot of experience from working as a plumber at construction sites or as a bricklayer can have that, you know, expertise now converted and recognized, you know, into a qualification. So, or at least a credit, you know, a qualification credit. So I think we are trying to do our best, but admittedly we can do more to try and ensure that everybody feels included and everybody feels I have a chance at getting a higher education.
I totally support and agree with the panel that the prior learning assessment and diffusing the access to education by going out into communities is one of the ways in which we can seek to re-engage those persons who have come out of the system uncertified. One of the things that Barbados is thinking of adding to that program is we intend to not only provide the literacy and numeracy training where there are gaps, but we recognize that some lack the ability to develop a method of learning that suits them.
Yes.
So we want to do assessments to help them understand their learning styles and show them the ways in which they can make learning suitable for themselves. And I think that we have to look at whatever we need to look at to help re-engage and remove that nasty taste from the previous experience and to give them the type of experience that makes them want to become continuous learners. I think that that is probably one of the most important things that we can do. Otherwise, in Barbados, we say our money would go down in Maxwell Pond. It means our money will be wasted if we don't find a way to make sure they want to engage. I think that I will stop at this point so we can get some questions and some input from the very, very knowledgeable people that sit in this room. It has been my pleasure to listen to many of you, and I look forward to further engagement. Any questions we are ready to take?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just have one question. The matter on micro-credentials is critical, but we are not hitting the how question. We are talking how important it is, but we are not focusing on how do I get in? Because we still have requirements. We still put up requirements as to whether I have 25 years of experience as a mechanic. There will still be requirements of, no, I must have a certificate of secondary education and so on and so forth. So we need to hit that nail. How do I get in? Thank you.
One of the processes that Barbados is actually using, we're actually removing the necessity for certification or experience. We are setting up a new university college, which is a technical university, and we're going to be allowing access without any certification or any prior experience. We're going to start their learning from that point, and then they can go on through micro-credentialing now to be able to add more micro-credits to their package, and then we can further certify that. But we are going to completely remove that need for either prior experience or prior. We will literally work with you to start from your literacy skills and then help you to find that path on the tertiary framework. So I would want to recommend that to you. Let me ask who has addressed this in Mauritius. You want to share?
The only mantra is flexibility. If you remain rigid, you are not flexible, you will not be able to accommodate it. So there is a need to be flexible, to be accommodating, and to say that yes, what we need at the end of the day is not the certificate, but the skills that have to be demonstrated so that we have the right evidence.
Can I come in? Yes. So for us as South Africa credentialing, we don't insist that it needs to be registered or embedded in a qualifications framework. What matters for us is recognizing that learning can take place across your formal, informal, and non-formal settings. So, and we have a number of TVET colleges and universities that are piloting micro-credentials in areas such as digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and green skills. So I just want to emphasize that we don't insist that it needs to be embedded in a national qualifications framework. What matters is just recognizing that learning can take place even outside the classroom.
For Sierra Leone, I mean, we have seen the merit of taking on board the micro-credentials training. But you're right that we have to seriously consider the how, because we have a system that is currently very traditional. So we have to rethink it to ensure that people are not thinking through, oh, do I have the criteria? Can I, can I write? Can I speak? There are people who cannot write, they cannot speak, but there are other ways that they can improve on their skills. When we had the lecture here by the professor from Tanzania, the world is changing. So our response to how we uptake learning and how we support our young people who have been on the outliers, we have to do a total rethink. I mean, if you take the university system, for example, in the case of Sierra Leone, where we have transformed polytechnics to technical universities, to make it attractive is to think of how those people who have not passed necessarily hit the mark to go to university and want to do options that are TVET options, the criteria for entrance should not be the same as for other courses in the college. So I think as professors, we also have a responsibility to rethink that the way we used to do things 20 years ago has to change. Our university governance system, the Senate, we know how courses are developed, how curriculum are developed within the university system. It has to go through Senate, it has to go through university court, it has to go through the higher education regulatory body for it to approve. It takes an awful lot of time for that to happen. So we have to look at the time and duration and the urgency if we have to give our young people the opportunity to acquire the skills and to be employable and to be of benefit to society. Thank you.
And thank you for that. The thing is to bear in mind is that because we're doing the reform not only at the tertiary level, but in our primary and secondary, eventually you will have a smoother flow between your secondary to your tertiary. You wouldn't have quite so much of the remedial to do. So it's only temporary. So let people get on the platform and help them to get through. I believe we have another question. Do we? No? Okay. Good. The one at the back.
Thank you so much, Honorables. Now, let me think a bit loudly. And I like what you are doing for our youth and so on. Now, in case maybe our youth are not able to develop their skills, say for instance, in our medium of instructions like English, Portuguese, French, and so on. Do we have alternatives where maybe they can be trained also in our local languages? Thank you.
South Africa has 12 official languages, including sign language. So we are very strong on ensuring that education is delivered in one's mother tongue or in a manner that one is able to comprehend. So, and I think that you even have students at a PhD level who are able to produce a piece of work in vernacular, in their mother tongue, etc. So, I don't really see language being a barrier for us, especially at a higher education level. But there is also an emphasis at a basic education level to ensure that we teach our children to read for meaning in whatever language that they're comfortable in. Because by the time they get to higher education, we must ensure that the basics are taken care of. And I know that the Minister of Basic Education in South Africa is passionate about ensuring that children are able to read for meaning. Because we do come across a situation where you, especially at higher education level, you realize that the basics are not in place in terms of being able to read for meaning and comprehend what it is that you're reading. So, but we are very strong on the recognition of languages. Our Constitution recognizes you know, 11 official languages, and the fact that people have a right to be taught in the language that they prefer.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. My question goes to the panel, but I'm thinking about at a policy level. I hear micro-credential is a nice thing to have, but from where I come from, which is South Africa, that becomes feedback. I just wanted to say, from a policy level, there are issues that mitigate or militates against micro-credentialing in our context. One, in the higher education sector, a student can't do a part qualification and get a certificate. They must finish the whole qualification. Then that needs a policy change in order for us to be able to deal with these issues that we're talking about of unemployment of the youth, because that's why you also have high attrition rates where somebody can go up to third year and drop out and nothing that he can come out and he can use any certificate to actually show that I know something. Therefore, what are we planning to do about those issues that are at a policy level rather than at an operational level? Thank you.
Well, in Mauritius, we're coming with the regulations. This is one way of actually ensuring that this is well embedded in the system and it can function. So we'll soon be having, by the end of this year, clear regulations for implementation of the micro-credentials. As I said, we already have a micro-credential framework. So to the previous question, I wanted just to add is that we are living in an era where Professor Bisanda in the Asabrik lecture reminded us the first people who lost their job because of AI were the interpreters and the translators. Because today you have apps that can automatically, right, with a great precision, transform lectures, videos from one language to another. Therefore, I don't see any issue in actually translating the lecture into the language that would be most suitable to the learner.
But I would want to encourage that we can make those changes to our legislation, make those changes to the requirements in our universities that allow people to pursue lifelong learning in the bits, pieces, and jumps that they want to, without having the stranglehold of you must complete this in 3 or 4 years. Our young people are shouting at us loudly, we do not want that, because they're not pursuing university education in the way that we anticipate. And this is particularly so with our males. Our males are in a hurry. They want to go and get a job. They want to get a girlfriend or a partner. They want to get a car. They don't want to put out 3, 4 more years before they can do that. And that is why certainly in Barbados, we have a higher level of females engaged in tertiary education and a much, much lower level among our males. And we believe that the micro-credentialing and the prior learning, that these are wonderful ramps to get them to re-engage their education and still get to the destination in their own way, in their own time. So we owe it to them to make those changes. I don't know if we have more time or we can terminate. You want to share?
No, I'm done.
You're good?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone with a burning issue that they want to share? Everybody's good? Okay, so thank you very much, panel, and thank you very much, audience.
Thank you very much, Ministers. That's a very strong close for us for 3 days of very hard work. for a great community of educators focused on open education with us. So I'd like you to thank the ministers again, and we'll move to the final part of our work over these last 3 days.